True stories about remote abandoned locations, rich in history. Come with us in our travels from state to state, if you dare.
Be the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we need something killed. Hello? Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
We're on.
We're on.
On air.
On air.
So, welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All is well.
Yes. I like how we're getting this down. The setup and the sound, and
finally,
hopefully it's all sounding better for everybody
it's about
out there.
Time. I know. We're going to have a couple episodes before this that, the sound quality isn't the greatest, but we'll get there.
We're on the struggle bus.
Yeah, we'll get there. Just a little disclaimer if you hear that. My dog's in the room. He wanted to.
Puppy whining.
Yeah, he wanted to. Well, a big puppy. He sounds like a little puppy the way he's whining, but.
Hi, baby.
He's feeling sorry for himself right now, but I promise you he's fine.
He was not even doing this. The minute we hit record, all of a sudden,
right?
He's very vocal. He's like,
yeah.
Show me.
That's my blue dog.
I need my 15 minutes
We'll have to put up some pictures of him right here so people know that he's not a little puppy. He's almost an 11-year-old 100-pound pit bull who laying in a dog bed.
Who likes to punk me all the time.
Yes, he does.
I love him.
I
so
do
cute. So we have today's episode. We're going to be talking about a place we visited in Wyoming.
Yes.
That involves a murder.
Yes.
So
it is. Well, we're not going to really focus on. So the person that we're going to be talking about, her name is Christine Thorton, and she was a victim of the dating game serial killer, and her body was found in Wyoming. And while we were in Wyoming, we traveled to the area, the ranch, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, outside the ranch,
outside
off
the ranch,
the road, the dirt road.
In Granger, Wyoming, where her body was discovered. So just a little, just want to say in the beginning of this that this episode is another one. It's true crime, so it will contain a lot of talk of murder, of just a lot of explicit things with children and so forth. So if any of that is a trigger for you, then this probably is not the episode.
Okay, so I'm going to be checking out now.
Yeah, this is
tough on us too.
Yeah, it's not easy to talk about these things, but.
So what was the dating game killer's name? Like his full name?
I don't know. Rodney Alcala is what I'm going to call him, because his birth name was like very long, and I was going to probably, now he's snoring, and I was probably just going to like not say any of it right. So for that reason, we're just going to go with Rodney Alcala. Okay. So I'm going to touch on a little bit about him and give you just a little history of his upbringing and kind of what led up to all of this, this horrible tragedy. So born Rodney James Alcala on August 23rd, 1943 in San Antonio, Texas. In 1951, his father moved the family to Mexico and then abandoned them 3 years later. Which that right there in itself, kind of speaks volumes. In 1954, when he was 11 years old, his mom moved him and his two sisters to Los Angeles. In 1961, at the age of 17 years old, he joined the U.S. Army and served as a clerk. In 1964, after suffering a nervous breakdown, he went AWOL and hitchhiked from Fort Bragg back to his mother's house. After being seen by a military psychiatrist, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and discharged on medical grounds. After leaving the Army, he graduated from UCLA School of Fine Arts and went on to study film under Roman Polanski at New York University.
Stop! I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure the majority of you that are listening, you probably know who Roman Polanski is, but if you don't,
touch on it.
if you do not, Roman Polanski was married to Sharon Tate, who this is not a picture of in the background,
By the way.
who most people think it is, but that's not. Yeah, so he was married to Sharon Tate, who was murdered by the Manson family, we'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Roman Polanski is also the man who was accused later on of sexual assault on children under the age of 18. Correct?
Yes.
Or, yeah, dating.
Allegedly.
Inappropriate acts. Yeah. And who fled the country and stayed out of the United States for many, 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 many years to avoid prosecution in the United States. But that's a whole other episode on Roman Polanski.
Right? But I did find that very interesting.
I am
that
very,
he studied under him. Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. In September 1968, Alcala was seen luring an 8-year-old little girl into his Hollywood apartment. The little girl's name was Tali Shapiro.
Just a question, and I didn't ask you this before, and I should have. But Shapiro, no relation to Shapiro, the attorney. Like,
I don't know. I didn't even research that, and I don't believe so. But if I don't know.
Just wondering if there was some kind of connection.
I don't know.
Okay.
Basically, what happened was, he was driving down the street. He saw her walking to school. He pulled over, got her to get in the car, took her to his apartment where he brutally raped her, beat her, stabbed her, and tried to choke her with a steel bar. When he was driving down the street and he asked her to get in the car, there was a man across the street who witnessed this and just for some reason thought, like, this doesn't look right.
Yeah, I think he saw the hesitation that she was having too, because I think there was a little bit of hesitation on her part on getting into the car. So
he, I think, saw that and
he was watching this,
contacted police and let police know.
And he followed them.
He did. He followed them.
That's just crazy, because I would never think, like, I wish I would be that vigilant, but I don't know if I see something like that and I think, oh, that's weird, let me follow this, and just call the cops just on a whim.
It's like a big move, but I think again that's probably something like where you go, one of those situations where you just go with your gut instinct, like something just tells you like this isn't a good situation. So I feel like maybe that's, I don't know what happened, but thank God it did, because police got to the apartment and they knocked on the door, and when the officer looked in the window, he said that he saw him standing in the bathroom, and he said to him, open the door. And he said, hold on, I just got out of the shower. Give me a couple minutes. And he said, no. He said he didn't have a towel on. He said he had no clothes on, but he was not wet, and he didn't have a towel on him. And then he busted in the door. He said when he went in the apartment, there was blood everywhere. And the little girl was still alive. Tali Shapiro was still alive, barely alive. She had lost so much blood. And he escaped out the back window. He said at this point that he had to make a decision of whether he saves this little girl's life or if he chases this man. And so he chose to stay here with her, and he saved her life. She was in a coma for 32 days, and she has no memory of anything. She says that the last memory she has is getting in the car with him. And there is, I think 2020 did a special on her, and she's still alive. She says that she has no memory, no recollection of any of it.
And did her family move out of the country after that?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
So, so to evade being arrested for this, he left the state and enrolled in New York University Film School under the name John Berger. So he just took off. In 1971, he got a job working at a New Hampshire arts camp for children as
Can
a
you
counselor.
believe that? Like, oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah. And then he went under an alias of John Berger, which was very similar to the first one. For the next 7 years, he was in and out of jail and committed many murders during this period. He convinced hundreds of young men and women that he was a professional fashion photographer and asked them to be photographed for his portfolio. And most of these photos were all sexually explicit photos that he was taking. But for a very short period of time, in 1978, he worked for the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter. And a coworker that was later interviewed said that he shared these photos with his workmates. He would show these photos off like he was so proud of them. And she said, and this is a quote from her, I thought it was weird. But I was young. I didn't know anything. When I asked why he took the photos, he said their moms asked me to. Yeah. She said, but I remembered that the girls were naked. He also had photographed a bunch of naked teenage boys, and many of these subjects still remain unidentified by the police. And they also believe that some of these people may be cold case victims also. So in 1978, he was a contestant on the dating game, which I know that that's kind of dating. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's a game show.
I love watching the dating
It's a game show.
Just did not know they let serial killers on there.
Yeah, so basically it's just a game where, they have a bachelor and they have a bunch of bachelorettes or vice versa, and they're behind a screen. There's, the one person interviewing them, and then they have the 3 contestants, and they ask them, and then they choose whichever one they want, and then they get to go on a date.
Yay.
So he was one of the 3 contestants.
It was like Tinder, but
yeah,
live and on TV.
Yeah. So a few of the men on this show described him as being a very strange guy with bizarre opinions, which I thought was interesting for men to like catch on to that.
Yeah, to pick up on that.
Yeah. So he actually won the competition, and he won a date with the bachelorette. Her name was Cheryl Bradshaw.
That's crazy, because if any of you go on and watch it, you're just like perplexed as to, I mean, even though if she saw him, I'm sure she wouldn't have picked him, because it's just, but even just off his answers and the way he responded, I'm just so surprised someone chose him.
I know. Like, we can put some clips in, because there are some, some clips out there of the actual, I just
found it very strange.
So after the show, Cheryl Bradshaw refused to go out with him because she said that she found him to be very creepy.
Yeah, he gave off like a weird vibe, which was smart on her part,
100%. 100%.
Who knows what could have happened to her?
I mean, by the looks of things, I feel like she might have been another part of this podcast. I don't know.
And here's another thing is that, just off the top of my head, I just would love to see if she's ever made a comment or got interviewed on that. I haven't seen anything on that.
Yeah, I haven't either. And and I'm sure a lot of these people probably just don't want to talk about that, or a lot of them are just probably shut off to that, which is completely understandable. So fast forward to March 2010, Huntington Beach and New York Police Department released 120 of these pictures, these photographs that he had taken over the years. They
found them in like a storage unit of his or something.
And they released them and they put them up on their website to ask the public for help in identifying them in hopes to determine if any of these women and children that he photographed were additional victims. And approximately 900 photos could not be made public because they were too sexually explicit. 900. Like, wow, that's a crazy number to think of. 900 of them couldn't even be put up. That's over 1,000 people that he came in contact with that he took pictures of.
It's funny because there's so much information out there, and you read stuff, I read stuff. We try to do research on it and stuff. We try to break it up. But it's funny some of the facts you come up with that I didn't even come across. Like, it's just so much information out there. And 900, wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
You can go online and see these
There's
photos. They're still up because they still
110, I believe, that are still up right now.
Yeah, because they want to identify these victims,
these people,
these people, because they have found that some of them are still alive from some of the photos, but like some of them haven't been identified.
Yeah,
so they don't know what happened.
So as of 2010, when they put these up, it took 3 years until in 2013, a family member recognized the photo of Christine Thornton, which is the woman that we're speaking of today. She's 28 years old. Whose body was found in Wyoming in 1982. And as of July 2022, 110 of these original photos still remain posted online, and police still continue to solicit the public's help with further identification.
Yeah.
So
I like that you brought that up on the photos and a family member, because when we were researching some of this, the sister was the one who recognized her sister.
Yeah.
They called her Chris.
Yeah.
So she recognized Chris in one of the photos that was up there, because she had a crooked pinky toe, because her name is Kathy. Kathy is 11 years younger than Christine. So she was graduating. She had just graduated high school. Christine was off on her adventures. She was, described as wild, free-spirited, carefree, loved to travel, sailing. So but we just read today that it was Kathy's son who actually sent the photos to Kathy and said, hey, I know, maybe here's this serial killer whose photos were put up. He had no idea. What is it? He had never met his aunt. Nope. She was, missing way before he was born.
Yeah.
So he had sent it to his mom and said, hey, take a look at these. Maybe it can provide closure. Maybe not. And that's when she found the photo. And so
I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine just flipping through pictures and then just.
And at this time, you don't know if she was a victim, if she's still alive. At this time, they don't know yet. They haven't made the connection yet,
right?
To it. So, I'll just give a little bit of history about Christine. So, she was born on November 7th, 1948. She was born in Hancock, Wisconsin. That's where all the family's from.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's Hancock, Wisconsin. She attended St. Patrick Elementary School, Hancock Central High School, and Michigan Tech University. At the time of her disappearance, she actually was a resident of San Antonio, Texas. So when you said that he was born in San Antonio, Texas, wow, what a connection. Yeah. And that's not even where their paths crossed.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Nowhere near.
It's crazy. So I thought that was interesting. So she was a resident of San Antonio, Texas. She was living there with her boyfriend. And at the time, she was 6 months pregnant. Her and her boyfriend decided that they were going to go to Montana for the summer. This was in August of 1977. She was 28 years old. That they were going to go to Montana to go pan for gold. I did not know this was still a thing in 1977.
I know when I read that, I was like, I need to look at I need to find another source, because like people were panning for gold in the 70s. Like, okay.
I mean, we traveled through all these towns and stuff, and we knew people were panning for gold in the 1800s.
I mean, I guess you could do it in Knott's Berry Farm, right?
You can still do it. I mean, when we went to South Pass, they let you pan for gold if you wanted to in the river that went through there. So, people still pan for gold. So they were heading up there to do that in the summer. And all of a sudden, her family doesn't hear from her. They do not know what happened. They don't know anything because at the time, there were no cell phones,
there's
nothing. And because she was traveling and stuff, the mom did have plans to go visit her after the baby was born in San Antonio, Texas, but she hadn't heard from her.
I feel like too, like back then, it wasn't, you wouldn't get worried so much. I feel like now with like cell phones and stuff, people are in contact so much more, like texting, you know, or they're on social media. Like you can see activity of people, where back then, like there was no, so, you know, days could probably pass, weeks, and you wouldn't, you know, be so concerned so quickly.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, they're on a trip. She'll get a hold of me
when she can,
when she gets there.
Phone. And who knows? Montana. Like, they probably didn't even have answering machines back then, so who knows? I could have been at the grocery store. She could have called. You know.
Yeah, you don't get worried too quickly. But then when the time comes that the baby should have been born, she still hadn't heard from her.
Yeah.
So the mom, you know, she reached out to San Antonio police because at this point she doesn't know where she went missing from.
Right.
You know, why she hasn't reached her daughter. They've tried contacting hospitals around the time that the baby should have been born. You know, is there any baby under the last name of Thornton? You know, things like that. They were actively searching. They were trying to get the FBI involved. Like, hey, we haven't heard from her. But they're like, look, she's 28 years old. Yeah, you know, she took off with her boyfriend. And so they knew nothing that had happened. Yeah. And so time passes. In 1982, a rancher outside of Granger, Wyoming, finds remains of a body, and they don't identify her. So she gets buried at Rock Springs Cemetery. It's probably about 40 minutes from Granger.
Like, we visited that.
We went to Rock Springs. Yeah, we went to the cemetery. We tried finding where they would hold the unnamed bodies or the dead.
I think they're called Potter's Graves.
Potter's Graves.
Yeah.
And so we tried looking for them, but we went kind of late at night. And
yeah,
we really,
it was already dark.
We weren't familiar with the cemetery, but you know, we walked around there, and she wasn't there at the time. So
no,
but so she was buried there, and so when she was buried there, it took 39 years for her body to be identified, because it took the time for Kathy to realize she was part of these photos. They submitted DNA evidence of their DNA to the FBI to try to match it, and she was in the system, and they ended up matching the family to these bones. But I'm going to back it up a little bit again, because Kathy, during this time, you know, her mother was trying to reach out. Her mother was trying to find out what happened to her daughter. But then as her mother got older, Kathy took over doing it. And she would, like, you know, it wasn't like a full-time thing, but every once in a while she'd try to reach out.
She actively kept searching.
She kept trying. Her. And for the longest time, they thought it was the boyfriend. Because she took off to Montana with them, and then all of a sudden they don't hear from both of them. Yeah. So they assumed that he killed her while they were traveling to Montana. That was their theory. And so in 1993, she found his phone number. She reached out to him. She called him, and that's where she got a little bit of the story. After she got off the phone with him, she still kind of thought that maybe it could have been him.
Yeah.
But so according to the boyfriend, they were traveling to Montana, and somewhere near Green River, Wyoming, which is between Rock Springs and Granger. There's a little, like, a rest stop in that area. There's a little place like Great America or something where you can get ice cream cones, things like that, like a little convenience store type thing. Well, big convenience store. And so somewhere along the way, they got in a fight. She got out of the car. He took off. And by the time he decided he was going to turn around, I think he said like 30 minutes later or something, he decided he was going to turn around to go get her. By the time he got back to the place where they got out of the vehicle, she was gone.
She was gone, yeah.
So it's speculated that during this time, Rodney Alcala was traveling west from New York.
Yeah.
And he was traveling west, and he stopped probably at the same rest stop or the same area, because I don't know if that convenience store was there in 1977, but he stopped and picked her up because based on the picture, and like you said, he said he was a photographer, so he probably said, "Hey, I'm a photographer." She might have been, she might have been hitchhiking though too. Who knows? Because she was so free spirited and so carefree, and she loved to travel. And during the time, it was very common to hitchhike.
Of course.
But somehow or another, she got in his vehicle, and they took off west, continued west on I-80, and he ended up turning off on Highway 30, going towards Granger, and during our trip, we kind of followed the same route.
Yeah.
And based off photos and stuff, I think we got pretty close to the area where her body was found or somewhere similar to that landscape. But we'll have pictures up.
Yeah, because there's literally nothing out there.
No, it's just open. Yeah.
Like open
sage.
Yeah.
And based on like kind of where they say they found her body. And it's kind of where they took the picture.
Right.
So we have the picture up of her sitting on his motorcycle, and that's how they knew that she was with him. He could not deny. He has denied killing her.
Yeah.
He said that he left her just fine, but they have evidence that she was on his bike. Yeah. You see the back bumper of his vehicle, there. And so he took pictures of her on this motorcycle, and then she was found around that area. Right there. I mean, So, he ends up killing her. It's speculated that he ends up killing her and just leaving her there. And she was 6 months pregnant. So fast forward to, I want to make sure I get my years correct. But when her body was identified as being hers, after the DNA was submitted and everything, and it comes back, Kathy and the other sister, Mary Ann, they go down to Rock Springs, and they have to go into this little chapel, and they don't have to. I think Kathy kind of requested it to see the remains of her sister. And it was in the funeral home chapel where they laid like on a cloth, they laid out the bones, a piece of tangled hair, and it had little tiny bones of the unborn baby with it. So, so when the funeral home didn't want her to walk in by herself because they were afraid she was going to faint, and they wanted somebody to catch her, so they let several people in with her. But according to Kathy, she's not the fainting type, so she went in, and she just was like, I mean,
she just needed it for closure,
And I think she even, one article I read that she even asked to touch it. Like she went and touched it and stuff. And so they ended up having her cremated, and they put her in this little white plain box with her and her baby, and the sisters, Kathy and Mary Ann, put in an RV and drove back to Hancock, Wisconsin, where Christine,
they took her home,
was buried. Yeah. And so, I wanted to see what year they finally were able to take her home. It was 39 years later. So from 1977 to in
2013 is 2013 when the picture,
I want to say maybe it was 2016.
2016 is when he was actually convicted of murdering her.
Okay, so it must have been sometime in between that time.
In between 2013 and 2016, so
that they were able to take her home.
All those years had passed.
I didn't write down that year. Sorry.
1977 to somewhere in between 2013 and 2016.
Well, even 2013, just being able to see a picture and say, hey, and then know what happened to your sister.
You went all those years, like just...
Yeah. And even the boyfriend wondered what happened to her. It wasn't like he never thought of her. He wondered what happened to her as well when he talked to the sister. She's like, I always wondered what happened because, they had a baby.
Yeah. I mean, so it's so weird, though, that he would never, and I guess, again, everybody deals with things differently, but I just think that it's weird that you just go on with your life knowing that your girlfriend that you got in a fight with and you left, and like she's pregnant with your baby, and then she's just gone. And what do? You just go home and go to work the next day? Like, what do you do?
Well, at the time too, there's no Facebook. There's no social media. There's no cell phones. There's nothing. So it's like, how do you find people?
Were different.
You really don't.
For sure.
You just hope they reach out to you eventually, or they find you in a phone book, or but and over the years too, that was what they were doing. They were calling hospitals over the years to find the sister, And one story I actually read that Kathy, the sister, was recounting was at one point, somebody had actually called the Huntington Beach Police Department and claimed to be Christine Thornton and said that she changed the name. I can't believe people who do that.
Who even thinks of, first of all, who thinks of doing something like that? Like, that's just asinine. I can't believe that people, like, think to even do stuff like that, but then let alone follow through with it and do it. It's just mind-blowing to me.
And so Kathy actually went on Facebook and said, hey, if this is really you, like, please reach out to me, you know, like, I'm here, you know, it's been too long, you know, to contact your family. Please let us know you're okay. What have you changed your name to, you know, kind of thing. And she heard nothing. And it was, you know, of course, it was determined. I mean, her body was found 5 years later in 1982. So she was not claimed for 5 years.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it's really, really sad. And we didn't go to Wyoming with the intention of like, oh, we're going to, at first when we had this idea to go to Wyoming and check it out. But as we started researching, the story came up of Christine and her body being found, and then to find out that it was connected to a serial killer. That's what we were like, wow.
And I just told Shannon today, I wondered why there was such a surge lately in podcasts and stuff on him.
Yes.
And it's because he passed recently. So
okay.
So that's why I think everybody, you know, decided to.
And he died of natural causes.
Natural causes.
Which, how many times did they recommend the death penalty for this man?
Oh my God. Like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, this guy was just, I'm going to go through some of this.
Yeah, go through that. Go through this, the legal aspect on this side of his case.
This is crazy. So in 1980, he was sentenced to death in Orange County, California, for a kidnapping and a murder of a 12-year-old girl in 1979. However, in 1984, it was reversed by the California Supreme Court, and he was granted a new trial. Okay, so here we go. Number one, right?
Number one, yes.
In 1986, he was sentenced to death a second time. However, a federal appeals court in 2003 overturned that sentence and granted him another new trial.
I'm wondering what were the causes of this. I mean, I'm sure we can look it up, but probably thousands of pages of court documents.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
His DNA matched other evidence in other murders, and the Orange County prosecutors indicted him for the murders of 4 other women at this time. In 2010, an Orange County jury convicted him on 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he was again sentenced to death. This time for the killing of Robin Samso, the 12-year-old that we talked about in the beginning. Not Tally Shapiro, but...
Yeah, and because at first I thought, it was overturned because, you know, California goes back and forth on the death penalty.
This is
But no, it's just because, it sounds like it's kind of in between
like
2010.
Probably loopholes that, you know, they're trying to get him out on, and...
all the appeals that you can do while you're on the death penalty, while you're on death row.
So he was, at this time, sentenced to death for killing the 12-year-old Robin Samso, the 1977 deaths of 18-year-old Jill Barcombe, 27-year-old Georgia Wickstead, the 1978 death of 32-year-old Charlotte Lamb, and in 1979, the death of 21-year-old Jill Parento. In 2012, he was extradited to New York after he was indicted for the 1971 murder of Cornelia Crilly and the 1977 murder of Ellen Jane Hover.
And those are from New York.
Yeah. He pleaded guilty and in 2013 was sentenced in New York to 25 years to life. In 2016, prosecutors in Wyoming charged him with the murder of Christine Ruth Thornton. Investigators have either suspected or linked him to other murders in Los Angeles and Marin County, California, Seattle, Washington, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona. He was convicted of murdering 8 people, 8 deaths, but he was suspected of murdering up to 130 people.
Wow. And I know that in Wyoming, the only reason why they didn't try him was something about his health, and they couldn't.
Yeah.
he couldn't travel to Wyoming for the.
Yeah, I think he was
and
kind
I
of sickly.
figured they just, and I think too at that point they just figured, okay, he's already got the death penalty and life in prison.
Exactly.
So it's like.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
He's not, but.
Yeah, he served time at San Quentin and at Corcoran. Corcoran State Prison. So on July 24th, 2021 at 1:43 a.m. at a hospital in the community near Corcoran State Prison, Rodney Alcala died at the age of 77 of natural causes. What I did find really interesting when I was doing my research is he was originally apprehended on July 24th, 1979. And he died July 24th, 2021.
Stop. I didn't even put the connection together.
Yeah. I just happened to read it and I was writing the dates down and I was like, wait a minute.
That date sounds familiar.
Yeah. So then I went back and I was like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
When do they suspect was his very first victim? What year?
I think Tally Shapiro.
And that was in 1968?
I think.
And look at all the years in between.
Yep, 1968, September 1968. I
From
think
there
that was,
to 1977, if they would have just apprehended him, kept him in prison, like it just, I know that it was hard back then because it's not like today where you have a digital footprint and people are easier to be found and stuff like that. It's easier to disappear back then, but it's just all the lives that would have been saved if.
And that's like
he could have been caught right away. So
that's
sad.
like a short period of time. That's 9 years, 130 people.
That's crazy.
That he's
and you can't live in what ifs. I mean, I know that. Like, so it's like what happened to happen, but it's just
to know that like so much of this could have been prevented, and he was just.
And the balls he had to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like how close he came to getting caught every single time.
But I think that's like pretty common, like in a lot of serial killer cases. You hear like, like Ted Bundy, like how many times did Ted Bundy escape?
Yeah.
Like
no, it's true.
He gets caught, he escapes. He gets caught and he escapes and just keeps going on. They just keep these rampages and they just keep murdering. And so it's a really sad story. But at least I'm glad, in this case, her family did get closure.
Absolutely.
For that. And they were, able to have a little bit of closure for all of those years. Again, like the last, the last true crime episode we had too, same thing. So many years passed until you finally just get this closure. And it's just so terrible. I can't even imagine this happening in general, but then having to live all these years, like your whole entire life, just not knowing.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened?
So. Torture.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about my own kids. So just torture of not knowing.
Yeah.
So
it's awful. So.
But
yeah. So that
was our trip to Wyoming.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really interesting to go and both of the true crime episodes that that we did that we got to visit the areas and it was
to see
just to see the roads that they traveled and where they were, where these bodies were found, and they're just like and again, Wyoming's so different than California, but it was just literally in the middle of nowhere.
And I'm sure it probably looked the same back then as it does now.
Oh yeah,
very similar.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Really.
Unlike here where we'd have like high rises in that spot or
we'd have
condos,
apartment buildings built and.
So it's beautiful out there.
It is.
Thank you so much for another episode.
Yeah.
For joining us again. So
yes, thank you so much. Make sure to follow us on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram at 50 States of Madness. And thank you. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons.
Yes.
If you'd like to support us, we are at 50 States of Madness on Patreon. And we will be back next week with another wonderful episode.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. See you next week. Bye.